Hello and welcome. Today, I thought I would do something a little bit different. I just wanted to look at a forecast for January and do kind of what I've been doing for the celebrity birth chart analysis and pull some tarot cards for each of these transits. I'm going to get back to doing the celebrity birth chart analysis because honestly, it is a lot of fun and I do enjoy doing it. I wasn't really feeling that today. I was like, I don't really feel like looking at Lana Del Rey's birth chart today specifically. I do want to do a video on her birth chart eventually. Today we're going to be doing this, okay? So let's get into it. All right. I ordered new glasses. They're coming in the mail. I still have these really scratched up ones. I guess you guys can't really see the scratches. I can see the scratches. Or rather, I guess I can't see because of the scratches. So we're starting out January, right after the new moon in Capricorn. The new moon in Capricorn always happens around this time of year. But also on January 1st, Pluto is going to be in exact opposition to retrograde Mars in Leo. This is one of the major transits of this year because Mars is going to be retrograde into late February. And Mars was exactly opposite Pluto around the time of the election. And so now that Mars is retrograde, it is exactly opposite again, and it is retracing those steps. So we are going to have this Mars-Pluto opposition happen in exactitude 2 more times. Once at the beginning of January, end of December, and once more when Mars stations direct and retraces those steps, again going direct and opposing Pluto once again. Let me see what the date of that is. Okay, so the 3rd time it will be exactly opposite Pluto will be at the end of April. So honestly, for me, that energy of the Mars-Pluto opposition is kind of present throughout this whole time, even though they are not going to be opposite each other the whole time. And I think we have seen a lot of that energy play out since the election. And it doesn't just have to do with this opposition. Pluto is also in Aquarius. It is going to be in Aquarius for the next 20 years. So this is a dynamic and multifaceted transit. Mars has to do with aggression. It has to do with violence. It has to do with taking action. I think this opposition to Pluto is just kind of adding fuel to the fire. So let's pull some cards for this transit of Mars opposite Pluto and just kind of Mars retrograde in general. Okay, so the first card that we have is the Fool reversed. This this tracks. When the Fool is upright, it has to do with like opportunity. It also has a more optimistic vibe. When the Fool is reversed, it is a bit reckless. It can be a bit misguided. The energy can be misdirected. The Fool card in general, when it is upright, it has to do with spontaneity, childlike spirit, just kind of embracing naivete and like blissfully just going for it. You can see that it's a guy and he's like about to walk off a cliff. So when the Fool is in its reversed position, it can take unnecessary risks. Right next to that is the Knight of Wands. And if there is a card that is very Martian in its energy, the Knight of Wands would be one of those cards. These 2 cards together tell me that we have all of this energy, all of this fire. The wands do represent fire. When you think about the Knight of Wands, you think about a young man on his horse, ready to go into battle, passion, action, adventure, maybe some impulsivity. Paired with this Fool card that doesn't really know where to direct that energy and that passion. So this Mars retrograde, again, like I said, being fueled by that opposition to Pluto, this energy kind of tracks. I mean, if you just look at the response to what has happened since the shooting of the CEO, people are riled up. People have a lot of passion for these issues in their life that have been caused by health insurance companies. But maybe some of that passion is a bit unorganized, a bit not fully thought out. The next card in the reading is the Star reversed. I'm trying to cover, this has like a little bit of explicit imagery in it. When the Star is in its upright position, it is very hopeful, it is very idealistic. When the Star is in its reversed position, it lacks that hope. It asks the question, why me? Why is this happening? Is there even a divine power? It is a search for answers that are not presenting themselves. And overall, it just shows a person who has lost faith in something that they have once deemed to be an ideal. This reading is perhaps a little too accurate to what's going on right now. I mean, really what the Star reversed shows is demoralization, which is kind of a hot topic right now. All right, next card that we have is the 8 of Wands. So this is a good card. I would say this is a positive omen for the most part, after this sort of like misdirected energy and demoralization that we saw with the star reversed. The Eight of Wands has to do with forward movement. The Eight of Wands is very focused on a goal. If you look at the card, all of the wands are very organized, they are pointing in the same direction, and there is movement in this card. A phrase that is often associated with this card is strike when the iron is hot. So although I do think these previous cards kind of denote some noise and a lot of largely emotional issues that a lot of people will be going through during this time, this does suggest that there will be some forward movement, perhaps because of uproar. So the next card in this reading is the Two of Cups reversed. When the Two of Cups is upright, it has to do with partnership. It is very similar to the Lovers card. However, when it is reversed, this tends to have to do with a falling out, mistrust, or just general issues with relationships. The Two of Cups reversed also has to do with introspection and looking at ourselves and how we can be better in relationships. So although this might not necessarily have to do with a falling out, it might have to do with a reassessing of ourselves in terms of how can we be better in relationships. People also might be realizing at this time that certain relationships do not serve them. That is honestly very common with these inner planet retrogrades, whether it be Venus, Mercury, or Mars. And so a reassessing of values is how I would interpret this. And then we have the Six of Cups reversed. The Six of Cups is a very interesting card, especially in this context. And, at the risk of being perhaps a little bit biased from a United States perspective, I think that one thing that we can all agree upon is that a lot of the values of the United States especially, but also kind of worldwide, are based on an old paradigm that is no longer working for the average person. When the Six of Cups is upright, it has to do with nostalgia, childhood memories, and innocence, and this sort of yearning for a past that was seemingly better than the present. So when the Six of Cups is reversed, we're kind of examining how we are putting that nostalgia on a pedestal. And this can have to do with relationships on a personal level, or it can also have to do with the ways that we are structuring society. Are we clinging to the past in a way that is not helping us get to the future? The Six of Cups reversed can also show that we are just out of touch with our sense of joy, that we kind of have to reignite the fire within in order to figure out the best path forward. I'm just going to pull a few more cards and then we're going to move on to the next transit. Okay, we have the Hermit reversed. And then, again, I'm going to cover up this card a little bit because she needs to be modest for YouTube. The World. The Hermit reversed has to do with isolation, solitude, but also I would say one warning with the Hermit reversed is being out of touch. I think a lot of people, when they have been demoralized, tend to isolate and kind of end up in these echo chambers, and they can become very out of touch with whatever is happening right in front of them. I see this card kind of as an omen. I would hate to see people become more divided. This card can also represent loneliness. And I mean, people have been very isolated, divided, and lonely for a long time. I think the World coming right after this, especially in its upright position, is a good omen, showing that, hey, people might be coming out of their shells, they might be coming out of their caves, and get back in touch with the world. The World is honestly one of the best omens you can get in the tarot deck. One of the main words associated with this card is integration. And so although because of these other cards in the reading, I do think that there is going to be a lot of divisiveness, there is going to be a lot of upheaval throughout this Mars-Pluto opposition, I think that the World as an outcome is a great omen. This is a card of completion. It is also a card of achievement. So I like that outcome. This is going beyond the month of January, but let's take a look at the other transits that are happening in January and pull some cards for those. Okay, so Venus is going to enter Pisces on January 3rd. It's going to be in a same sign conjunction as Saturn and Neptune, and at the time, the moon. So let's pull some cards for Venus ingressing into Pisces. Venus is in its exaltation when it is in Pisces, so this is a good place for Venus to be. Okay, so the first card that we have is the Three of Swords reversed. In its upright position, you can see the Three of Swords. It doesn't have the best imagery, but we have the Three of Swords in the reversed position. So the Three of Swords, especially in relation to Venus, can show that we have gone through some very difficult times, and we are trying to move on from that. Often when the Three of Swords, upright or reversed, shows up, it means that we're just in a very vulnerable and sensitive state. But in its reversed position, the Three of Swords can kind of be like the calm after the storm. I like that we have the Nine of Cups right after the Three of Swords, because the Nine Nine of Cups shows a sense of gratitude for what we have right now. Another word that is often associated with the Nine of Cups is contentment. So in terms of Venus, the planet of love, the planet of luxury, the planet of romance, the planet that really makes us feel secure, the planet of abundance, we're moving past this heartbreak and we are moving on to a sense of contentment. Right after that, we have the Ace of Cups reversed. Interesting coming after these two cards. In its reversed position, I mean, you can almost see it's like dumping the water out of the cup, meaning that maybe we are learning that in this previous situation, whatever it was, we were giving too much of ourselves. Perhaps we were denying ourselves of the self-love and the self-care that we really need to succeed. Or maybe in certain situations, we are being denied of it. The Ace of Cups reversed also has to do with not expressing our emotions in socially acceptable or productive ways. So maybe there could be a lot of frustration or outbursts, or you could be afraid to express certain feelings or emotions. Now, the card that comes after this is also a Cups card. Very interesting to have a few cup cards next to each other. It is the Five of Cups. If you look at the imagery in the card, you can see very clearly that this is a card of disappointment and regret. I feel like I often see similar sort of lineups of cards when dealing with people who have dealt with narcissistic abuse. It's this sort of like contentment to be out of the situation, but still these very strong emotions that accompany being in a situation like that. Maybe things did not turn out the way that you expected them to. But the silver lining to this card is that the situation that got you here is over. And yes, of course, you need to process these emotions that come along with it. But then after that, you can move on. The card that comes up after that is the Four of Pentacles reversed. In this particular context, I think that the Four of Pentacles reversed represents wanting to protect ourselves against whatever it was that made us feel this way. In this context, this is a card of self-preservation. Perhaps sometimes being a little too defensive, overcautious, possessive, or guarded. So if that's happening to you in the month of January, just be aware of that. Okay, and the last card in this reading is Temperance. This is a great card to close out the reading for Venus and Pisces because it shows that we have kind of gone through this arc of healing. It shows that we have processed those emotions and that we have found balance. We have learned to be content with our life while also, protecting ourselves when we need to. Temperance as a card is associated with the sign of Sagittarius and also the planet Jupiter. So I like this idea that we are sort of expanding our horizons and becoming more learned when it comes to these things that we've gone through. Okay, so that's the reading for Venus in Pisces. And Pisces is a sign that is associated with healing. Healing is not all sunshine and rainbows. However, ideally, the end goal of going through a healing process is to reach something like temperance, balance, rediscovering our purpose. I might do a part 2 with the second half of January because this video is getting kind of long. So I think that's where I'm going to call it for today, but I'm going to pick right back up where I left off in the next video. If you would like to book a one-on-one session with me where we look at the transits happening to your chart and pull some tarot cards for that, there is a link down below where you can do that, and I will see you next time.